what is Python first. Now, there are several definitions of Python, and you must have listened from your faculties also that Python is a programming language, or Python is a scripting language, or someone is saying Python is a general purpose language. So what exactly is a Python? Python is a general purpose, interpreted, interactive, object oriented, high level scripting language. Now every word is very important here. General purpose is something where you say this is a language for multitasking, like you can do anything here. You can use a language for web programming also, you can use a language for testing also, you can use for the searching, web scraping, and many more purposes. But what is the other purpose then? The language could be a specific purpose or domain specific now. So what is that domain specific means here? When you say domain specific, it means you are using for certain domain, let's say for database language. Now you are using the certain language database. Which are the language we are using for database? You are using SQL, MySQL. So these are the specific purpose language. Or even the HTML, take the language HTML. So these languages are the specific purpose language. Whereas the language like Python, C++, Java, those languages are a general purpose language. So as I said previously, general purpose means you can perform any task. So one term at a one time. So in definition, I will say Python is a general purpose. The meaning of general purpose means using this Python, you can perform any task. This is very, very important term. Let me tell you guys why. So it's a very flexible, right? So you can do whatever you want. You can use a Python for data science. You can use a Python for machine learning. You can use Python for AI programming. So whatever is your objective, whichever the type of industry, in all cases you can use a Python now. And that is the reason it is very important to know that what is a general purpose means. It is not just the specific thing like database, like you say, okay, this is only for SQL query, or it is only for database. No, it is not like that. It is not just for the web programming. You can use for whatever the purpose. You can do any kind of project using the Python. And that this is a very, very important term that we are saying the Python is a general purpose language. Okay, so I hope it is clear that what the general purpose means and what is specific purpose means. Now, second term in the Python, you must have heard several times that Python is an interpreted language. So what is interpreter means here? See, interpreter means now there are languages, there are several languages which are we call interpreted language. Which are the language which are interpreted? What is the difference between interpreted and compiler based language? Now language like C, C++ and Java, they are considered as a compiler based language. Whereas the language like shell scripting, Unix shell, we have shell, right? Shell is an interpreted language. Perl scripting is an interpreted language. So the most of the scripting language, what you see, where there is a line by line execution takes place, those languages are considered as an interpreted language. Now Python is an interpreted language. What is the benefit of having the interpreted language? Means here you just write one line and you can see the immediate response. That way there is a interaction. So here you just say Python print hello, and you can get immediate response out it from the interpreter itself. And who is doing the part which is related to machine now? That is all taken care by the interpreter. Interpreter is taking care of all the low level part. What do I say high level? I'll be coming back to the high level. So when you say the low level part means here something related to a machine, something related to allocation, deallocation of memory, how to execute and in a backend, that is all taken care by the interpreter. Interpreter do everything, byte coding, converting that, making it communicating to the hardware or the compiler. Everything is taken care by the interpreter here. How it is developed? It is developed using the C language. So as this language is developed using the C language, internally there's a compiler. Who is communicating with the hardware? Communication is done by the compiler, right? But then overall, what happened? Interpreter is taking care of everything for you. So as a high level thing, what you see is the interpreter. Internally, there is a compiler, but we are not directly communicating with the compiler now. It is through the interpreter, communication is happening with the hardware now. So here there is an immediate response. That's why we say interactive. You just download the Python, and you can just run the shell like print hello world, and you get immediate response. That's why we call it is interactive. So anybody who is very new to the programming language and they would like to try it out and say, okay, print hello, hi, how are you, you can get immediate response from it. That is what the interactive language means. Other language, what happened, even for the simple hello word, you need to write 4 to 5 lines of 4 to 5 lines, and then you need to compile it. And once you compile, then you need to execute. Like in the case of C language or Java language, you must have seen, like for even simple hello word, what you need to do it, right? So here it is so fast that you just say print welcome and you get the immediate response here. Now, this is very, very important term, that Python is object-oriented scripting language. Now, there is a difference between object-oriented programming language, object-oriented scripting language, just programming language, and the scripting language. So what is this object-oriented scripting language now? Now Java is object-oriented programming language, whereas I say Python case, it is an object-oriented scripting language. What does it mean now? Meaning here is that in Python case, everything what you type here is an object. Everything, whether it is say integer, whether it is a float or string, so all data types are considered as an object. So object means there are classes already defined in this case, right? We'll understand what object means, what class means in detail in Python. But here understand that everything is already predefined now. In case of object-oriented scripting language, the things are already defined. We are using readability. The concept of readability is used everywhere. There's a principle called dry principle. And what is that dry principle? The dry principle says that do not repeat yourself. And that principle of Python is used everywhere. So here, all our classes, all our objects, and we just use it. So some of the guys would like to know, so what is the difference between the class and object? Most times we are confused. What is class and what is object? Let me tell you, class is a blueprint. When you say class is a blueprint, means it's a design part. So you don't see what is internally, right? Let's take the example of car now. Now car is having some design, like how the layout of the car is. So car is having certain wheels, let's say 4 wheels are there, we have steerings, we have some design part. So all that design part is done in the class. Whereas if you want to say the real car, based on the design, someone is manufacturing the car. It could be any car now. It could be Honda car, it could be Maruti Alto car, or whichever the car it is. So that is the real car. Whereas there is a design, which is we call class, and what you see, the real thing, that the car, maybe the Honda, Maruti, whichever the car you say, they all are object. So I hope you got the difference between the class and object. So in the case of language, what happened? You decide the methods, you decide the data, and you encapsulate together. All these things we do in the case of class. So class allows you to encapsulate data and methods. So what are the properties or the feature you would like to write it, that everything you design or decide in the case of class. And based on that, you create an object. And you can create an object of any type now, based on the class. So this is your customized object. When you say the built-in object, means they are all predefined. But when you say customized, means user-defined object, that you decide, okay, what should be the properties. So as a programmer, you can, in the Python, you can design your own class, and you can also, means here there is a class also object in the Python case. Other language it is not there, but in the Python case, let me tell you, even the class is considered as an object. So here what happened exactly? In this case, you decide in the Python case, what should be the method name, what should be the data name, how the data should be defined, whether it should be shareable or not shareable. Everything we decide in the case of class here. We are going to see this particular topic of object-oriented scripting language in the tomorrow session. I'll be creating the complete bank application and you are going to understand how you can develop your own application using the object-oriented programming feature now. Now, the very important term here is high-level language. Most times we get confused. We say, okay, sir, C language is also high-level language, Java is also high-level language, PHP is a high-level language. So what does it mean high-level language? So the thing is, like, whenever you find it's easy, means for the user or for the programmer, something like English language. there we are not talking to the machine directly. So here we say, hey, print hello. So it's English, right? So print hello is English. So that is why it's a high level. We are not talking to the machine directly. So when you want to talk to, like in the previous case, like when we started the computer and all, that time we were having the assembly language. We're talking to the machine directly. There we're writing the certain instruction and we're talking to machine directly, saying, okay, if you want to store data, how to store, how to allocate the memory, deallocate the memory. So much of things we are talking to the machine and we are trying to understand the hardware part there. So when the thing comes where you need to understand the hardware part, like embedded programming or system programming, there you still need to understand the hardware part. So there you see, like there is a more related to like a low level languages. So when you say low level language, it is more, we more talk about the part which is related to the hardware part. Whereas when you say high level language, our focus is business. Our focus is application. Our focus is not to understand what is happening internally, how the memory is allocated, how memory is deallocate, how exactly the memory mapping should be done. That is not a part in the case of high level. That is all done automatically. So who is doing that? The interpreter is taking care. So here Python is a high level language. So you simply need to write whatever you want to do. Just say the instruction, what instruction you want to say, and based on that, the execution is done internally. So you just give the instruction to the Python interpreter, say, hey, hello, and the interpreter responds. That's what the high level language is. Now, most of the times what happens, there are some questions coming up, like what is the difference between Java and Python? Most of you guys are having the Java background. That's why I generally try to explain the difference between the Java and Python. What is exactly the difference of Java and Python? Let me tell you, the Java is object-oriented programming language, whereas Python is object-oriented scripting language. In the Java case, you need to write your class. You need to write a class and then create an object. And you need to write many more lines here for even simple hello world also. You communicate with the compiler and you talk to the compiler and then you get the output. We say system.out.println. And that is not the case in the Python. In the Python case, what happened? Interpreter is taking care. You don't require to worry here. So you can see the lines of code here now. In the Java case, a simple hello word. How many lines you are writing? You're writing almost 5 to 6 lines of code. And then you compile and then you get the output. That's not the case in the Python. Python is simply say print and hello world, the response is there. So one thing you understand that here it is an object-oriented programming language, here it is an object-oriented scripting language. So there is a huge difference. When you say object-oriented scripting language, already classes are defined. So there are built-in objects available. But that is not the case in the Java. Java, you need to write your own class and then create an object. By default, we don't say there's a built-in objects are there. Everything is not object in Java. You create an object using the classes. Okay. It's an object on the programming language, and here it is a compiler base, here it is an interpreter base. Here things are very fast. In the Python case, you just say and they're done. That's not a case in the Java. You have to write, compile, and then get the response. I hope it is clear to you.